Clara Black, a wealthy heiress from Glenford, openly declares that she only dates men for a month at a time and never gets emotionally involved. Men eager to climb the social ladder line up across the city, hoping for a chance. After all, when she is in a good mood, she rewards them with a villa. When she isn't, she still gives them millions of dollars when the relationship ends. People in Glenford laugh at me, calling me the most humiliated live-in husband they've ever seen. They're convinced that I'll endure it for the rest of my life. That is until Clara brings home a college student named Leonard Frost. Leonard looks ordinary, yet he becomes the first man to break her one-month dating rule. Clara then gives me two options. One option is to accept an open marriage and let Leonard have equal footing with me. The other is divorce, with half of her assets given to me and a clean break afterward. Her close friends watch from the sidelines, certain that I'll keep enduring everything for the sake of money. Yet I choose the second option without hesitation. In my previous life, I chose to endure, only to have Leonard take advantage of me even more. He forbade Clara from touching me and refused to let her bear my child. In my old age, I could only look on with envy as Leonard enjoyed a household full of descendants. Even after Clara passed away, she didn't mention me in her will at all. Every part of her estate fell into Leonard's control. I kept the title of Clara's husband, yet I lived my entire life completely alone. Now that I have been reborn, everything is clear to me. I will take the money and walk away, severing all ties with her for good. I took the divorce agreement, read it carefully from start to finish, and was prepared to sign. Clara Black finally spoke, which was unusual for her. Her voice held a tension she didn't seem to notice. Sebastian Hale, think it through. Once you sign, there's no turning back. My hand didn't falter. The pen traced a clean, decisive curve across the page, and I signed. I'm packing my things and leaving right now, I said. How could I possibly regret it? In my previous life, I had believed that bringing Leonard Frost home was just another way for her to get back at me. I had foolishly thought that after so many years of entanglement, she must have felt something for me. How ridiculous. She and Leonard had 2 children within 3 years and stayed devoted to each other for the rest of their lives. I, on the other hand, had existed in that house like an unnecessary piece of furniture. I had endured half a lifetime of awkwardness, with people pointing and laughing at me. It wasn't until I was old that I overheard Clara and Leonard talking in the hospital room about that incident. She admitted that she had staged that dramatic, caught me cheating scene back then by arranging for the disheveled housekeeper. I was simply tired of him but didn't want things to get too ugly, she said. Not a trace of guilt showed in her clouded eyes. So I staged the whole thing. That way, whatever I did afterward would seem completely justified. So that was it. No wonder every desperate explanation I made was met with nothing but cold disbelief. She had known the truth all along. Clara didn't love me, yet she trapped me for 50 years with a false accusation. She could have ended it cleanly, yet she chose to torment me slowly until the very end. I raised my eyes, looking at Clara's youthful yet still indifferent face. All affection in my heart had vanished, leaving only seething hatred. She stared blankly at the signed agreement, shock flickering in her eyes. Outside the door, the faint rustle from those eavesdropping fell abruptly silent. The next moment, my noble in-laws burst in, beaming with joy. My mother-in-law, Bella Jarvis, grabbed Leonard's hand. She examined him from every angle and clicked her tongue in approval. Oh, my young people really are something. They just radiate energy. My father-in-law, Sean Black, who had always scowled at me, was now smiling warmly. He glanced at me and said pointedly, "Finally, we've gotten rid of that useless piece of trash who took up space and contributed nothing. After all these years and not a single child to show for it." Leonard lowered his head shyly, feigning modesty. "Mr. Black, please don't say that. I'm not much younger than Sebastian." He paused for a moment, a blush creeping across his face. "Actually, Clara has been pregnant for a month. But it's still early, so we haven't announced it yet." I raised an eyebrow. As expected, it was the same familiar sarcasm and nauseating tone I'd always known. The only difference was that this time, I no longer cared. Over the years, in order to be a proper live-in husband, I had pushed myself to exhaustion at Black Group during the day. At night, I still had to cater to my demanding parents-in-law. I was barely in my early 30s, yet strands of gray had already appeared at my temples, making me look far older than my years. I turned back to the bedroom and began packing the meager luggage I owned. I was already thinking about where to go first to properly unwind once I had the money. I didn't notice Clara following me inside. She said, "It's late. There's no need to move out immediately. Leave tomorrow instead. Isn't the villa on the west side of the city still empty? You can stay there for now. I'll visit when I have time. Sebastian, I know you love me. Don't act out of spite." She gently rested her hand on her still flat stomach. "But I truly can't stay married to you anymore. I can't let my child be labeled illegitimate from birth." I said nothing. I simply lifted my suitcase, walked past her, and headed straight for the door. "There's nothing left for us to discuss. I'm glad that we're getting divorced. If you have any conscience left, hurry up and pay what you owe me, I said. The night wind carried fine snow against my face. It was biting cold, but it couldn't extinguish the fire burning hotter within me. Clara was as efficient as ever. By the time I woke up, $3 billion had already been deposited into my bank account. With the money in hand, I immediately booked the most luxurious private club in Glenford. I got a haircut and indulged in a full-body spa. The haggard man with graying temples in the mirror was gone, replaced by a young man with striking red hair and sharp eyes. I had just finished changing when my close friend, Frank Roth, called me. Sebastian, what happened between you and Clara? Are you out of your mind? The whole world has gone crazy, he shouted the moment the call connected. I held the phone away from my ear and asked lazily, what happened? Why are you asking me? Haven't you seen the news yourself? His voice brimmed with disbelief. The headlines are swamped with photos of Clara at a gala with Leonard. She told all the reporters that he was her only husband, and that they were holding the wedding immediately. Your snobbish parents-in-law were there too, praising him and saying that he was worth it. He lowered his voice and asked with cautious concern, Seb, are you okay? Clara was now giving someone else all the public acknowledgement I had never received, and all the recognition I had longed for half my life. He replied, "I've fine." I admired my new look and said calmly, we're already divorced. Divorced. Frank could barely believe it. He had watched me love Clara for over a decade. He had seen how I humbled myself for this marriage, erased who I was, and begged for her affection. I didn't explain further, letting out only a soft laugh. Are you free tonight? Come out for drinks. It's on me. In the most extravagant bar in Glenford, my booth was lined with bottles of the priciest ace of spades. Several young, beautiful hostesses surrounded me, eagerly pouring drinks. Frank's eyes widened. Damn, I believe it now. You really had let go. You were never like this before. In the past, I had carefully calculated the value of everything I bought, just to prove to Clara that I wasn't after her money. I had feared that she might think that I spent recklessly and was neglectful of the family. Now, I sat in a lavish private room, looking at my reflection in the glass, bold red hair and a perfectly tailored bespoke suit. Frank raised his glass and clinked it hard against mine. You finally look like that once-in-a-century genius from Ashford University's finance department again. He took a long gulp of liquor and spoke for me. Back then, countless venture capital firms fought over you. If you had launched your own company, you would have crushed Black Group years ago. You worked for her family for over a decade, and in the end, you got so little from the divorce. Seb, I really feel for you, Frank said. It was far more than a decade. In my previous life, under my leadership, Black Group had once ruled as the country's most powerful company. Yet in my later years, I couldn't even afford a box of painkillers. In the end, I was thrown out by Leonard's children and died of illness beside a pile of trash on a winter night. The business empire I had spent my entire life building ultimately benefited Leonard and his children. At that thought, I drained the glass in one go. The sharp liquor burned its way down my throat, yet it ignited the fire deep in my chest. I was going to make them see for themselves whether they could still live so comfortably without me. The next day, news of me registering a company spread like wildfire, and everyone in the circle reacted immediately. Some saw opportunity and arrived overnight with proposals, hoping to invest. But even more people were gauging the Black family's reactions, mocking me and waiting to see what I would do. I had no idea who was pulling the strings, but the paparazzi's articles were all belittling me, painting me as overconfident. I looked at the notifications on my phone and swiped them away without expression. I didn't expect to receive a call from Clara. Sebastian, stop fooling around. Starting a company isn't a game, and your money won't last more than a few days. I haven't taken your position at the company away from you, so come back, she said. I refused her coldly. You don't need to worry about me, Ms. Black. There was a few seconds of silence on the other end. Clara sounded slightly annoyed, yet she still spoke patiently. Sebastian, can't you try to understand me? I've just found my true love. Besides, instead of starting a small company, why don't you stay at Black Group, the Southern District acquisition you were handling before? I hung up immediately. As expected, she only remembered my usefulness when she needed me. The Southern District project was a tough challenge that took me half a year to secure. I pushed myself through endless drinking at negotiations, ruining my stomach in the process, just to get it done. Without me, Black Group would have no idea where to even begin. At Black Group, although I held the title of CEO, my monthly salary was only $3,000. That was because Sean said that we were all family and shouldn't be so calculative. I once naively believed that it was his test for me. Now it was clear that I was nothing more than a competent and extremely cheap worker they recruited. The more I thought about it, the angrier I became. I made up my mind. Even if my new company couldn't take all the projects that I had brought to Black Group in my previous life, I would personally hand them to their fiercest rivals. After I hung up on Clara, She was so furious that she threw her phone onto the floor. Over the years, she had grown used to my obedience, calling me at will and dismissing me just as easily. Being hung up on so decisively had clearly embarrassed her. Just then her assistant, Hazel Simmons, entered awkwardly with a stack of documents that Clara could barely understand and asked her to sign them. The strain of pregnancy, along with years away from the company, left her feeling completely overwhelmed. Leonard followed Hazel in and took Clara's hand, his eyes filled with concern. "Clara, don't exhaust yourself. I'm your husband now. Let me join the company and share your burden." Clara hesitated. "You're still young and unfamiliar with the business. You should start by rotating through the departments." Leonard's eyes turned red with grievance. "If Sebastian could be CEO, why can't I?" Clara instinctively wanted to remind him that I was, at the very least, a top finance graduate from Ashford University. But when she looked into Leonard's eyes, brimming with tears, she lost all sense of reason. Her heart softened, and she nodded in agreement. Leonard hugged her, tears in his eyes but a smile on his face. "I've just been worrying about you too much. Look at you, you've lost weight recently," he said gently. My company had been running for less than 2 weeks, yet it was already operating smoothly. During this time, Leonard sent plenty of people to cause trouble. Their actions were nothing more than petty, underhanded tactics, all of which I defused with ease. After years in Glenford, the connections I had built far outmatched Leonard. Several veteran employees at Black Group whom I had personally trained were already tempted to join me when they heard that I had started my own company. After all, ever since Leonard was parachuted into the company, he had been constantly suppressing them, leaving them miserable and stifled at work. I didn't rush to have them come over to my side. Instead, I let them stir up minor trouble in their company before they left, as a way to show their loyalty to me. Leonard thought that losing a few employees was no big deal, and even secretly felt relieved that he had cleared out the remnants of my influence. But what he didn't understand was that the departure of certain people could cripple the company at its core. One project after another fell through, and Black Group's stock price kept sliding. On my side, I had a strong and well-staffed team. They showed astonishing drive and execution, securing several multi-million-dollar deals in rapid succession. I stood by the floor-to-ceiling windows of the conference room, looking down at the cheering team, and announced loudly, "Tonight, we're going to Velour. Drinks are on me, and no one leaves sober. Boss, you're awesome." Amid thunderous cheers, I led everyone out of the building in a grand procession. At the entrance, a familiar black Rolls-Royce Phantom was quietly parked by the curb. The car door opened and Clara, cradling her noticeably rounded belly, waved at me. I didn't glance at her, and kept moving with my team. Hazel stepped in to block my path. Clara caught up to me, her face showing clear displeasure and a trace of anger. "Sebastian, what do you think you're doing? Can't you see me? You've really grown bold now." I grew impatient and looked at her coldly. "Ms. Black, what do you want?" She was taken aback by my attitude but still got straight to the point and ordered, "Shut down your small company and come back to Black Group." Her audacious remark made me laugh in disbelief. However, she mistook my laughter for hesitation and softened her voice slightly. "Sebastian, I've been really tired lately. Stop acting out of spite, okay?" She paused for a moment, then spoke as if making a huge concession. "If you really care about Leo, I can arrange for him to move elsewhere for now." As I looked at the self-important Clara in front of me, I couldn't help but doubt my past judgment. I cut her off coldly. "I'm not acting out of spite. Ms. Black, we're already divorced. Please don't bother me anymore." Her patience snapped and her voice shot up. "I've already compromised. What more do you want? The company needs you right now. Why do you have to make things difficult at a time like this?" I suddenly realized that it was impossible to reason with her. Did she really think that the world should revolve around her? I replied, "Ms. Black, if you need anything, you should go to your dear husband, Leonard. I'm just an outsider. I have no obligation to clean up your mess." It suddenly dawned on her, and a flicker of realization crossed her face. "Is it status that you care about? I'll think about it after I give birth, but you must promise not to make it public. I don't want to upset Leo." I stared at her, pausing between each word. "I'll say it again. Leave. Don't let me see you again. I don't want to remarry you. Never in this lifetime." Clara's expression darkened with fury. "Sebastian, don't take my kindness for granted. Don't forget that this is Glenford. Bringing down a small company like yours would be a piece of cake for me." At that moment, a clear and slightly lazy female voice cut in. "Oh, Ms. Black, that's quite a bold claim. Are you not only openly harassing my fiancé, but also trying to destroy his company?" Clara turned to look, and her expression faltered. The woman who stepped out of the shadows was Victoria Vance. In Glenford, the Black family was wealthy, but the Vance family was royalty. As the heiress of Vance Global, Victoria was known for her ruthless business acumen and cold demeanor. She was the one person Clara Black had always tried, and failed, to befriend. Victoria walked over to me, her heels clicking rhythmically against the pavement. She wrapped an arm possessively around my elbow, her sharp gaze piercing through Clara. You. Clara stammered, her face draining of color. Ms. Vance, you're joking, right? Sebastian is just a discarded toy of mine. How could he possibly be your fiancé? Victoria smiled, but her eyes remained icy. One woman's trash is another woman's treasure. Besides, Sebastian has more business talent in his little finger than your entire family combined. I invest in potential, Clara. Unlike you who invests in charity cases. She glanced dismissively at Clara's stomach. Clara trembled with humiliation. He's just trying to get back at me. Sebastian, tell her. Tell her you're just using her. I looked at Clara, feeling nothing but a profound sense of distance. Victoria is right. We're engaged. And unlike my previous marriage, this one is built on mutual respect. I turned to Victoria. Shall we go? The team is waiting. Victoria nodded. And without sparing Clara another glance, we walked into the night. Once we were safely in her limousine, the intimacy vanished, replaced by a professional atmosphere. Victoria released my arm and poured 2 glasses of whiskey. That was a good show, she said, handing me a glass. But let's talk business. I've seen your proposal for the AI integration in the logistics sector. It's brilliant. Vance Global wants in. I took the glass, a small smile playing on my lips. I assumed you stepped in because you needed a shield against the board of directors pushing for your marriage, and I needed a sword to keep the blacks away. Smart, she toasted. A marriage of convenience. We destroy Black Group, split the market share, and you get your revenge. Do we have a deal? Deal, I said. In my previous life, I had never crossed paths with Victoria. Now she was my strongest ally. Over the next 6 months, the landscape of Glenford's business world shifted dramatically. My company, Hale Capital, backed by Vance Global, skyrocketed. Meanwhile, Black Group was bleeding. Leonard Frost, eager to prove himself, had taken over the CEO position. He was arrogant, firing the veteran staff I had trained and replacing them with his college friends, sycophants who knew nothing about corporate management. It was time to set the trap. I knew from my past life that the government was planning to rezone the Southern District. On the surface, it looked like a goldmine for residential development. In reality, it was about to be designated as an industrial waste protection zone, meaning no residential buildings could be constructed there for 10 years. In my previous life, I had spent months investigating this and narrowly avoided the trap, steering Black Group toward the northern sector instead. This time, I had my team leak confidential documents suggesting that Hale Capital was aggressively bidding for the Southern District land. Make it look real, I told Frank. I want Leonard to think I'm desperate for this land. The bait was taken immediately. At the auction, Leonard showed up in a flashy white suit, looking smug. Clara was absent. She was nearing her due date and had been ordered to bed rest. 300 million. I bid, acting agitated. 350 million. Leonard shouted, sneering at me. 400 million. This is my project, Leonard. I yelled, feigning desperation. 500 million. Leonard slammed his hand on the table. I'll take it. You lose again, Sebastian. I stood there, looking defeated, my fists clenched. The gavel fell. Sold to Black Group for 500 million. As Leonard celebrated, soaking in the applause, I slowly unclenched my fists, sat down, and sent a text to Victoria. The rat has eaten the poison. 3 months later, the government announcement dropped. The Southern District was frozen for development. Black Group had sunk 500 million. Liquid capital they didn't have. Into a plot of land that was now worthless dirt. The bank loans were due, and the stock price plummeted by 40% overnight. At the Black family mansion, chaos reigned. You idiot. Sean Black threw a teacup at Leonard's head. 500 million. You've ruined us. Leonard, bleeding from a cut on his forehead, cowered on the floor. It was Sebastian. He tricked me. He acted like he wanted it. He played you like a fiddle because you're stupid. Bella Jarvis screamed, no longer praising his youthful energy. Upstairs, the sound of a baby crying echoed. Clara had given birth to a son a month ago. She walked slowly down the stairs, looking pale and haggard. The post-pregnancy weight hadn't dropped, and her eyes were dull. Stop shouting, Clara said weakly. You'll wake the baby. Your husband just bankrupted us. Sean roared. Clara, you need to fix this. Call Sebastian. Beg him if you have to. He still loves you, he must. Clara looked at Leonard, who was trembling and avoiding her gaze. This was the man she had sacrificed everything for. In just under a year, the romance had evaporated. Leonard spent his nights at clubs, smelled of cheap perfume, and blamed his failures on everyone else. I can't call him, Clara whispered. Then we lose everything. Leonard suddenly stood up, a vicious glint in his eyes. No, we won't. I know how to fix this. Sebastian has a new prototype in his safe. If we get it and sell it to overseas competitors, We can cover the loss. That's corporate espionage, Clara said, horrified. That's prison time. It's only a crime if we get caught, Leonard hissed. Hazel is still close to Frank Roth. She can get us the access codes. Clara looked at the desperate faces of her parents and the crazed look in her husband's eyes. Slowly, tragically, she nodded. I sat in my office, watching the surveillance feed on my monitor. They took the bait, Frank said, standing beside me. He looked a bit hurt. I can't believe Hazel actually tried to drug me to get my key card. Money changes people, Frank. Or rather, it reveals who they always were, I replied. On the screen, a figure dressed in black crept into my office. It was Leonard himself. He was too paranoid to trust anyone else with the theft. He opened the safe using the combination Hazel had stolen. A combination I had intentionally let her find. He grabbed the stack of blueprints labeled Project Phoenix and slipped out. What Leonard didn't know was that Project Phoenix was a fake. It was a flawed design with deliberate safety hazards. 2 days later, Black Group announced a revolutionary, new tech product. They pre-sold it to a massive overseas distributor, securing a hefty down payment that temporarily saved their cash flow. Leonard walked around Glenford like a king again. He even gave an interview mocking me. Some people start companies, others revolutionize industries. Hail capital is old news. I waited. A week later, the overseas distributor tested the blueprints. The prototype battery exploded during a stress test, burning down their lab. The lawsuit that followed wasn't just for breach of contract, it was for fraud and criminal negligence. The international police were involved. Because Leonard had signed off on everything as the chief architect of the project to claim the glory, his name was on every document. The police cars surrounded the Black Group headquarters on a rainy Tuesday. I stood across the street under a black umbrella, Victoria beside me. Ruthless, Victoria murmured, though she sounded impressed. You gave him the rope, and he hanged himself. I just hastened the inevitable, I said. We watched as Leonard was dragged out in handcuffs, screaming my name. Sebastian, you set me up. This is entrapment. Clara, save me. Clara followed him out, holding the baby. She wasn't arrested, but she looked like a ghost. The assets of Black Group were frozen. The reputation of the family was destroyed. Sean and Bella were wailing in the background as creditors began seizing their luxury cars. Clara looked across the street and saw me. For a moment, the rain seemed to stop. She handed the baby to her mother and walked through the downpour toward me. She stopped a few feet away, soaked to the bone. Are you happy now? She asked, her voice trembling. Justice isn't about happiness, Clara. It's about balance, I replied calmly. I can give you half of the Black Group shares, she pleaded, rain mixing with tears on her face. Just help us with the legal fees. Help me save the house. For old time's sake. Please, Sebastian. I made a mistake. I know that now. Leonard is a monster. But I still have memories of us. The Sebastian who loved you died the day you signed those divorce papers, I said. Actually, he died long before that, in a hospital bed alone. She looked confused, not understanding my reference to the past life. Victoria, I said, turning to my fiancé. Let's go. No. Clara grabbed my sleeve. You can't leave me like this. I have a son. I gently but firmly removed her hand. That's Leonard's son. And this is the life you chose. You wanted excitement? You wanted a young, passionate lover? You got him. Now pay the price. The bankruptcy auction of the Black family estate took place 3 months later. Everything was sold. The antique vases I had bought for Sean, the jewelry I had gifted Bella, and the villa where I had lived as a servant for years. I bought the villa, not to live in it, but to bulldoze it. On the day of the demolition, Clara was standing outside the cordon tape. She was renting a small, rundown apartment in the slums now. Her parents had moved back to their ancestral village in shame. Leonard was serving a 10-year sentence. She watched as the excavator clawed through the roof of the bedroom we used to share. I walked over to inspect the site. Why? She asked softly. Why destroy it? To build something new, I said. We're turning this land into a public park. A place for children to play. It's a better legacy than what stood here before. Clara looked at me, her eyes hollow. I regret it, Sebastian. Every single day. I dream about the time you made me soup when I was sick. I dream about how you handled everything so I could be carefree. I took your love for granted because it was so constant, like air. I didn't realize I couldn't breathe without it until it was gone. Regret is a luxury, Clara, I said, checking my watch. I have a wedding rehearsal to attend. Her head snapped up. You're really marrying her? Yes. And this time, it's not for duty. It's for love. The wedding was the event of the decade. Victoria was stunning in white, a stark contrast to her usual sharp business attire. But when she looked at me at the altar, her eyes were soft. Over the past year, our partnership had evolved. We had fought battles back to back, trusted each other with our legacies, and found a rhythm that was purely ours. It wasn't the fiery, toxic passion Clara chased, nor was it the subservient devotion I had given before. It was a partnership of equals. Do you, Sebastian Hale, take Victoria Vance? Ido. As I kissed her, the applause was deafening. I looked out at the crowd, my friends, my loyal employees, my new family. I thought about the old Sebastian, dying alone on that cold winter night. Rest now, I thought to my past self. We made it. Epilogue. Winter in Glenford. 5 years later. Glenford was covered in a thick blanket of snow. I sat in the living room of our home, a warm, vibrant place filled with laughter. A little girl with red hair, my daughter, was trying to put a bow tie on our golden retriever. Victoria was laughing, capturing the moment on her phone. I received a call from Frank. Seb, just wanted to let you know. It's over. Who? Clara. She passed away last night. Pneumonia. She didn't have money for heating. I went silent. In my previous life, I was the one who froze to death while she lived in luxury. The cycle had completed its turn. Did she leave anything? I asked. Just a letter. For you. Burn it, I said. I don't need to read it. Understood. I hung up the phone and looked at the fire crackling in the fireplace. The hatred was gone. The anger was gone. Even the pity was gone. There was only peace. Victoria sat next to me, resting her head on my shoulder. Everything okay? I wrapped my arm around her and kissed her forehead. Everything is perfect. Outside, the snow continued to fall, burying the past deep beneath the white, pristine earth, leaving only the promise of a bright, clean tomorrow.